Welcome to NFL Nexus, the spot where we really get into the weeds on the biggest stories and strategies around the league. Hey, if you're a fan of deep dive football analysis, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss one of these explainers. Today, we are tackling a team at a massive crossroads, the New York Giants. After a pretty dismal 4-13 season that had some promising moments but was mostly just washed away by inconsistency, they made a huge move. They brought in a proven winner, head coach John Harbaugh. Now, the goal isn't just to get better, it's to build a real, legitimate contender around their young QB, Jackson Dart. But man, that is a monumental task. This offseason is absolutely packed with franchise-altering decisions. And in this explainer, we're going to break down every single angle of the most critical choices facing that front office. Okay, so let's really dive into this. When you bring in a big-name coach like John Harbaugh, this is a guy with a Super Bowl ring from his time in Baltimore, a rock-solid reputation for building physical, disciplined teams. It creates this huge wave of optimism. But let's be real, it also cranks the pressure up to 11, immediately. The honeymoon period in a city like New York is notoriously short. The clock is already ticking to get this team not just back to the playoffs, but deep into January. Every single move made in this 2026 offseason, from the smallest free agent signing to that top draft pick, is going to be scrutinized under this brand new high-stakes lens. So the question is simple, but the answer? It's incredibly complex. With a new coach in place, what's the actual plan to build a winner? So to figure that out, we're going to follow the same kind of decision-making funnel the Giants front office is probably using right now. We'll start with the big-picture questions facing this new regime. Then, we'll narrow our focus way down to the single most pressing issue on the entire roster, the offensive line. From there, we'll explore the two main paths they could take to fix it, and we'll even look at a high-risk, high-reward third option. Finally, we'll lay out all the choices so you can decide what the winning move really is. All right, first up, a new coach, big questions. The arrival of John Harbaugh isn't just about a new voice in the locker room. It signals a potential seismic shift in philosophy and strategy and culture. Are they going to be a team that wins with defense and a power running game, like those classic Harbaugh Ravens teams? Or are they going to adapt their whole philosophy to fit Jackson Dart's strengths and the modern pass-happy NFL? This kind of change resets all expectations, and it forces the entire organization, from GM Schoen on down, to answer some really fundamental questions about the identity and the direction of this franchise for the next 5 years. So these are the core things that reporters are just going to be hammering them with at the NFL Combine. Let's break them down. First, the most immediate fire to put out: what is the plan for an offensive line that is almost unbelievably in flux? We'll get to that whole mess in a minute. Second, how do you take Jackson Dart, who showed real flashes of talent as a rookie, and make sure he avoids that sophomore slump and takes that next big step? Is it about changing the scheme or just getting him better weapons and protection? Then there's the defense. Despite having elite talent like Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, they consistently underperformed. What's the new philosophy going to be? More aggressive? And finally, the big one that can make or break a regime: how much say will Harbaugh have in personnel? It is absolutely crucial that he and GM Joe Schoen are perfectly aligned. You just can't have that internal power struggle. So of all those critical questions, one stands out as the most urgent and, honestly, the most paradoxical. That brings us to Section 2, the offensive line conundrum. This unit went from being the team's biggest weakness, a running joke for nearly a decade, to a surprising legitimate strength last season. And now, somehow, it's threatening to become a full-blown crisis all over again. Just look at that number, 11. For a franchise that's been haunted by terrible offensive lines for what feels like forever, where fans watched their quarterbacks run for their lives, that number is almost unbelievable. That's the total number of sacks the Giants line allowed all of last season. That performance, with a healthy Andrew Thomas back at left tackle, ranked them third in the entire league in pass blocking efficiency. For a 4-13 team, this was the bedrock, the one unit you could point to and say, that works. It was absolutely essential in giving a rookie quarterback time to operate, and it was, without a doubt, a massive success story. So you'd think the number one priority, the absolute first thing on the offseason checklist, would be to keep that successful unit together at all costs, right? Well, that's where this story takes a really sharp and frankly worrying turn. Despite that elite performance, the line, as Giants reporter Patricia Traina points out, could be undergoing a complete makeover. This is the central tension of the Giants' entire offseason. The one thing that finally went right is now on the verge of being completely dismantled. So let's get specific about just how shaky this whole situation is. On the left side, you've got your all-pro cornerstone, Andrew Thomas. He's locked in, he's elite, he's not going anywhere. But that's it. That's where the certainty ends. Next to him, guard John Runyon Jr. is in danger of being a cap casualty, which just means his salary is so high compared to his performance that the team might cut him just to save money.
Then, the entire right side of that awesome 2025 line, guard Greg Van Roten and right tackle Jermaine Elamounar, are both pending free agents. They can sign with anybody. Elamounar especially had a career year. He picked a perfect time to play the best football of his life, and now he's going to get a big payday. Losing him would create this massive gaping hole, leaving the Giants with potentially 4 out of 5 starting spots completely up in the air.
This brings us to the next critical part of the decision. If we assume the most urgent need is filling that giant hole at right tackle, the front office faces a classic fundamental team-building dilemma. Section 3, draft prospect versus free agent. It's a choice between two very different philosophies for how you solve the exact same problem. And this slide right here breaks down that choice perfectly. On one hand, you have the draft. You use your most valuable asset, the number 5 overall pick, to grab a potential cornerstone. This guy is young, he's powerful, and he's on a cheap rookie contract for 4 or 5 years. He could lock down the right side for the next decade. The risk? He could be a bust, and a top 5 pick failing can set your franchise back for years. On the other hand, you have free agency. This is the win-now move. You sign a proven, battle-tested vet who you know can play at a high level from day one. The risk here is all about the money and the age. This path aligns with Coach Harbaugh wanting to make an immediate playoff push, but it costs a lot more and could hurt your salary cap down the road.
Okay, let's dive into the draft option because the hype around this prospect is very real. The consensus top tackle, who could be there at number 5, is Francis Mauigoa from Miami, and these numbers are staggering. First off, he'll only be 20 years old on draft night. That is so young for a top prospect. He's got the perfect size at 6'6", 335 pounds, with the power to just dominate. But it's his performance that's crazy. His pass block grade was in the top 10 in all of college football. Over the entire 2025 season, he only allowed 10 total pressures and just 2 sacks. The only minor knock is some technique stuff, but that's considered super correctable. He's seen as the one tackle in this class who could start from day one. Now, let's look at the veteran path. One of the top free agent tackles out there could be Braden Smith from the Colts. This profile is all about proven reliability. It takes all the guesswork out of it. He's 29, right in his prime, with over 6,100 career snaps. There's no projecting here. You know you're getting a high-level, consistent starter. Last season, he was fantastic, allowing just 1 sack. The downside? It's that last line. His projected cost is around $13.5 million a year. That's a huge investment, especially when re-signing their own guy, Jermaine Elamounar, would probably be a few $1,000,000 cheaper. With Braden Smith, you are paying a massive premium for that certainty.
But wait, what if there's a third way? A more complex strategy that doesn't just fix one spot, but addresses the entire philosophy of building out the roster. This brings us to Section 4, the trade-down gambit. This is the wildcard option, the chess move that could reshape the Giants' entire draft and their long-term future. The question posed in a recent mock draft is a fascinating one. It's a real GM 101 dilemma. What if the Giants, instead of picking a single player at number 5, trade that valuable pick to a team desperate to move up? The logic here is that this Giants roster has more than one hole to fill, a lot more. They also have huge needs at linebacker, cornerback, and receiver. One blue-chip player at tackle is great, but a massive haul of draft picks could let them build depth and find starters all over the field, speeding up the rebuild by adding multiple young, cheap players at once. So let's just break down how a hypothetical trade like this, maybe with the Steelers, would work. The Giants would send their coveted number 5 pick plus a late rounder to make it work. In return, they get a treasure trove. From Pittsburgh, they'd get 3 picks in the top 100 of this year's draft, picks 21, 53, and 76. But that's not all. They'd also get future assets, a 2nd and 3rd round pick in next year's draft. The result is a complete transformation of their draft capital, giving GM Joe Schoen incredible flexibility to rebuild this whole roster in his image. And here's the potential payoff of that move. In this scenario, the Giants don't even have to give up on getting a tackle. They can still grab a high-upside starter like Monroe Freeling from Georgia at pick 21. Now, he might not be the same can't-miss prospect that Mauigoa is, but he's still a top talent. The crucial point is what else they gain. They get those extra top 100 picks to address other major needs, like grabbing a starting safety or a corner in the 2nd round. Instead of putting all their eggs in one basket at pick number 5, they get to take more shots, build out the depth of the entire roster, and add multiple young, cheap players. It's the philosophy of getting more bites at the apple, which is just essential for a team that's rebuilding. So that leaves us here at the final decision point. Section 5. What's the winning move? We've looked at 3 distinct, viable strategies for the New York Giants. Each one comes with its own set of benefits and risks, and the path they choose is going to define this whole Harbaugh-Schoen era right from the very beginning. Let's summarize the 3 paths on the table one last time. Path 1 is the foundation play, draft at number 5. You take Francis Mauigoa, you get that cost-controlled blue-chip anchor for the next decade. You might still have some other holes next year, but your future at a premium position is secure. Path 2 is the win-now move. Sign a veteran. You bring in a proven guy like Braden Smith, paying top dollar for a battle-tested starter who helps you win immediately. And Path 3 is the chess move. Trade down. You pass on the elite prospect, you take a very good one like Monroe Freeling later, and you pile up a massive haul of draft picks to build depth across the whole roster. It's the ultimate asset accumulation strategy for a long-term, sustainable build. And so we end here. 3 clear strategies, 3 very different visions for the future. Do you build for the next decade with one single elite cornerstone? Do you pay a premium for immediate contention? Or do you play the long game by accumulating assets to build a deeper, more complete team? Each choice has merit. Each choice has significant risk. So the final question is for you. If you were in the GM chair staring at that board, which path would you choose for the New York Giants? Let me know your choice and why in the comments below. I really do read every single one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives every week. And hey, a quick and fun way to support the channel is by checking out our football-themed coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, even for adults. You can get to them through the link in the description or just use the QR code on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.